Welcome back to the news. Today things are a little bit strange because Tango Gameworks, a company that we all thought was, dead because Microsoft announced that they would be closed, well, they're actually no longer closed. They exist again. It's pretty crazy. They have a new owner, Krafton, who say that they're committed to welcoming back all staff who would like their own roles, which really is quite something, and it goes against the general industry trend of, 11,500 at least layoffs this year. And this is, of course, very good news. I mean, yes, for the sake of video games, but also jobs, because it seems that up to 150 of them may be back. We've also got some words from John Johannes, who is the creative director of it, where he just said, and this is how it continues, we're back, baby. Which is a crazy thing to see. You do not normally see this sort of thing happen. And, well, it's pretty specific what's going on here, because they've also negotiated the rights to Hi-Fi Rush. Yes, normally, right, the IP ends up getting, kept by whatever its owner would be, say Microsoft, but that's actually not happening. Now, they have the studio, they're reforming the studio, and they've got the Hi-Fi Rush IP. And so far, it seems that they're only interested in the Hi-Fi Rush IP, meaning that Ghostwire Tokyo and Evil Within will just exist, with ZeniMax, should, of course, Microsoft want to do anything else with them. So this is lovely news, and Krafton have been pretty keen to stress that they've got plans for the Hi-Fi Rush IP. So here's what they've said about it. As part of the strategic agreement, Krafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition and maintain continuity at Tango Gameworks, allowing the team to continue developing Hi-Fi Rush. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is a bit weird. Why are they doing this? What exactly is the problem here? Why is it okay for them but not okay for Microsoft? Well, I'd say it's a few different things. Number one, Microsoft would probably have wanted it to move the needle a little bit more. Maybe. I mean, even though Microsoft themselves did say that they were actually really quite happy with Hi-Fi Rush's success. So it could be the numbers are good enough for Krafton, but not good enough for Microsoft. There's also that Microsoft said that basically the ZeniMax leadership was spread way too thin, and because of that, they wanted to trim it down and consolidate it. Now, to talk a little bit about Krafton, they're a name that you may not know, but you certainly will know some of their video games because, well, they're basically known as the PUBG people, right? So PUBG, they've also got a side interest in the MMO Terra and many, many, many different mobile games. Now, another project you may know Krafton for is, of course, Callisto Protocol, and don't worry, we'll be talking about that soon. Now, what they've done is they've talked up how this is their first big move into the Japanese market, and of course, this is Microsoft getting rid of their own Japanese studio, trading it over. What I'd say this mostly looks like, though, is an opportunistic move by Krafton. I think they found a team who's proven they can make really good games. They've got IP that people like, and they've just decided, feck it, we'll go and acquire these guys. And if we actually take Microsoft at their word that it basically didn't make sense, wasn't working out from the perspective of organizational focus, leadership, that sort of thing, then maybe this just is a case where it was a very easy deal to make. But the real question is, will this entire thing go tits up? And the reason why there's cause for worry here is something that we covered in a recent edition of Loading Screen. If you're not aware, by the way, Loading Screen is our daily newsletter. You can get it over at bellular.games, basically over there, right? And there's only so many things that I can do as videos. So over there, you get our videos early, you get our videos ad-free, you also get our reports, and you get Loading Screen every single day. You get so much content from our team. And particularly this Loading Screen was called How Do Executives Make Games Worse? A Case Study. And this was basically going into stuff with Glenn Schofield and the Callisto Protocol. Basically, Callisto Protocol seems to have been rushed out the door by Krafton executives in 2022, despite the leadership team just wanting the game to have more time to cook. So with that in mind, you can see things being a little bit worrying. But anyway, there is so much over at bellular.games, and it is the best way to support what we do. We're trying to make that basically our real home, the internet, where we don't have to worry about algorithms or any of that stuff. So that's essentially what's going on. Thank you to everybody who has joined us over there, and if you want more content from our team daily, that is the place to go. Now, as for this, Krafton founded Striking Distance, the company that made Callisto Protocol. They founded them to make PUBG single-player content, and basically, when doing that, it then just sort of developed into a Dead Space spiritual successor, and that ended up being the game that we got, a game that it seems was rushed out too early by the executives. So that does mean that we can really see Krafton being mercenary with their decision-making, and that can really result in a bad release. Like, done well, Callisto Protocol could have been a really good situation, could have been a strong game, but obviously it was not done well. It came out too early. So we've got an example of this being bad for a studio. On the flip side, though, there's everything that happened with Unknown Worlds. So you'll most likely know on Worlds because of the Subnautica games. They also, before that, did Natural Selection 2. I know that was a game Total Biscuit loved. I remember playing loads of Natural Selection 2. Back in the day, it kind of gave you the, well, basically it was a bit like Alien 2. It was really, really good. But anyway, they seemingly are an acquisition that actually did good. That is bar one weird thing that happened in February, and I don't know if this was just some sort of like corporate miscommunication, but Krafton basically tried to sell investors on the next Subnautica game being a live service, which kind of would have been hell. The good news, though, is it's not, and Unknown Worlds basically had to step in and, like, cam fans down, so maybe that was just a miscommunication, and, I mean, normally I would just assume that there probably is a little bit of drama underneath the surface, but they have actually released things. As an example, right, Moonbreaker, which is basically a tabletop wargame-inspired strategy game that is in a Brandon Sanderson backed universe, because guess what? It's Sanderson. The man literally cannot stop writing. I feel like he is in the word count version of the movie Speed, where they can't slow down the bus. So Sanderson's just got to write and write and write and write. He reads just so many books. But anyway, that's totally a side thing. But what's interesting with that game is the team were seemingly given full latitude over how it would be released. There was early access to get it into the hands of people, and even an opportunity to completely strip out the monetization during that early access period. So maybe that's a bit of a good sign. Usually you'd expect the corporate owner to say, no, keep in the egregious microtransactions. In this case, they seemingly didn't, and they just devolved that to the team. Maybe that's a level of pragmatism that the Callisto Protocol just didn't get, and maybe that means that some lessons have been learned. It's kind of hard to say. What we can say, though, is they have bought this team, they've bought that IP, they very much know that those things go together. So the idea of acquiring Hi-Fi Rush and the people that make it, then to just ruin it, stuff it full of, bullshit that's not Hi-Fi Rush, I don't know. It seems like it would be a bad idea, but again, that's not really something I would put past the industry. Now, we've talked a whole bunch here about Tango and about Krafton. What about the people doing the selling here? Like, why are we only hearing about this 3 months later? Why did Xbox not do this in the first place? Well, what we have got is a statement given by Microsoft to Windows Central, and glancing through it, like reading through it, it really doesn't say that much. They just said, basically, we're working with Krafton to keep that team together, and we look forward to the next thing that comes out. There'll be no impact in the existing catalog of Tango games. So you read that and think, all right, but boys, could we have some like actual answers, as to why any of this happened? Because again, why would Microsoft not wait and announce this news instead of just say, hey, we're closing the studio? That is really, really bizarre. I mean, it's so abundantly the right move in terms of PR that you maybe try to do a deal to save the studio. Well, that just makes me think that this kind of happened after the fact. And it's especially weird because Matt Booty, who's the head of Xbox Game Studios, said that they did try that they did consider letting the studio go independent or even selling it, before he then explained that the closure itself was because of questions around whether leadership could deliver new games, kind of implicitly tying the closure to the departure of the studio founder, which is weird because that guy seemingly had next to no involvement, or, very, very little involvement with Hi-Fi Rush other than approving the development. So it really is strange, and I guess to be cynical, what appears to have happened here from the outside is Xbox have just been told to lower their operating costs immediately by Microsoft leadership in the wake of the ABK acquisition, and then just seems like they kind of ran down the balance sheet and they try to remove the most expensive studios that had games furthest from release, because think about Tango. They just put out Hi-Fi Rush. They probably do have something else from another one of their teams, but it's probably years away. In which case, it's not really any good to Microsoft now, is it? Therefore, cut it. And perhaps after all of that happened publicly, somebody from Krafton somehow came through and asked if they could pick up the team. And that broadly does mean we have a happy ending here. Tango Gameworks will actually continue to exist. They will be able to make Hi-Fi Rush. There's certainly questions about other things that Tango could be doing, but we do know that Hi-Fi Rush is a game that was like a passion project for them. They cared a hell of a lot about it. People loved it. It was exuding passion. It was doing something kind of unique and special. So, man, it's very rare that we actually get good, happy news in today's industry. So let's take this for the big win that it is. But certainly, keep an eye out for Krafton. Let's hope that they are good owners of this studio and that they don't do very short-sighted Microsoft-style moves. And because, look, these people who are being, heard about here, let's not do it again. Okay, that is the situation today. If you want more stuff from our team, check out bellular.games. Other than that, though, I will see you back here again tomorrow.